Welcome to another episode of the Project Egg Show. I'm your host, Ben Gothard, and today we have the honor of speaking with Zachary Babcock. How you doing today, Zach?
Dude, thanks for having me, man. How you doing, dude?
Dude, I am phenomenal, and I'm so excited to chat with you today because you have one of the most incredibly epic stories that I've ever heard. And so I really want to ask you, what is that story? What is your story?
Yeah, wow. I'll give you the short version and we can always unpack more. But yeah,
Well,
man.
can you actually please give me the long version? I want to hear the whole thing.
All right, cool, man. Yeah, dude, I grew up without a father. He died when I was 7, so I always wanted to fit in with the quote unquote cool crowd. I would do things outside of my character to fit in with those people growing up. And it was purely on my choice, but I was never had a father figure after my dad died, and so this led to a lot of bad choices and decisions. And by the time I was 17, I had caught a bunch of cases for being a knucklehead, going out stealing from cars and stuff like that, and ended up getting some time. Well, I got probation. I thought my life was over, and I just went off the deep end, bro. And I started doing I graduated from weed to ecstasy to cocaine. Before I know it, I was a full-blown heroin junkie, crackhead, you name it, man. Just going off the deep end. And I ended up going to prison on a 7-year sentence. I did 4 years flat. A lot of crazy stuff happened during that time. We can always, go back into that. But I got out when I was 23 after doing 4 years and was ready to change, but didn't know what yet, didn't know how I was going to make that change or whatnot. So I got a job at a bar and grill working 50 to 60 hours a week, was crushing it. And then I got a job on a sales team at the clothing store, and I always thrived in those types of situations, bro. I was like working with people, helping them get what they want and need. And so I got promoted third day there, and I'm like, yes, I'm putting behind this pass, and I'm moving forward. I'm I'm getting it put up in the management. Put in my 2 weeks at the bar and grill. 2 days later, they're like, yeah, dude, you're a convicted felon, kick rocks. And dude, instead of just searching for other opportunities, I chose to throw a pity party and feel sorry for myself, became an alcoholic. And then I landed myself back in prison. I woke up to find out that I was going back to prison just 20 days before my twin sons were born. And dude, that was it. That was the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. That was like, I'm done. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I don't know when I'm coming home, but I'm going to do whatever it takes to get back home, to be a responsible father and happy and successful. Didn't even know what happy and successful looked like at that point in time in my life, but I didn't know how I was going to make it happen. I just had my reasons why I had to do it. And ever since then, just been moving in a completely different direction.
So what is that completely different direction? Once you had that pivotal change, like what did you actually do moving forward?
Yeah. I think I really believe I just never had that chief aim in life or that driving force. I was just kind of going through the motions in my life up until that point. And then when I had my kids, not all I wanted, but a main thing that I wanted growing up was to be the father I didn't have growing up. And so now missing out on that was so painful. It was like now I had something to shoot for. And that was like my quote unquote purpose or whatnot. And it's grown and evolved since then. So I got introduced when I got out. I ended up doing 8 months the second time, got home, couldn't get a job anywhere, was really stressful for like 2 months. And then I got introduced to entrepreneurship through network marketing. And bro, at the time, I didn't even know what a pyramid scheme was. So you couldn't scare me off with the word with a pyramid scheme or nothing. And it was cool though. I did that for about 2 years. I'm grateful for the industry because I was able to create almost $2,000 residual month income. It introduced me to personal development. But more importantly, it showed me that I can create a life by design and that my past wasn't going to haunt me. But I outgrew it quickly after 2 years. It was like, I'm not dissing all network marketing companies. There's good and bad ones out there. I was just taught to blow through a list of people and get them to either join the company or try the product. And if they didn't, just keep moving. And I was burning relationships, so it just didn't resonate. And I finally moved on to it. And then, long story short, for the next 2.5 years or 1.5 years, struggled trying to be a life coach. Didn't make any money as a life coach or help anybody because my messaging was just all over the place. But finally, I landed on podcasting, and how I started it, bro. Anytime I tried to collaborate with any entrepreneur, nobody took me seriously. I was just like the ex-convict turned entrepreneur afterthought that literally nobody gave the time of day to. And I'd be lying to you. I was pissed, bro. I was like, I get it. Everybody judges. We're literally hardwired that way, to immediately form an opinion of anyone or anything that we come into contact with. It's for our survival instincts, but I wasn't going to let that keep me there. And so out of that pain and frustration, I'm like, I'm starting this podcast. And I got really intentional about the brand Underdog Empowerment, specifically related to who I am, who I was, and helping those types of people. You don't have to go to prison, but you had these grandiose visions and everybody's just not taking you seriously. And you're like, I don't care. I'm committed to winning. And became a top rated podcaster the first week. Next week, interviewed Billie Jean as marketing. Just been interviewing great people ever since, like yourself and just so many other cool entrepreneurs. It's crazy because in 1 week we went from nobody wanting anything to do with me to interviewing celebrities, and just the brand blowing up ever since.
And so when you had that realization of, man, I want to collab with people, but nobody's really taking me seriously, how did that then lead to a podcast? Like, where did that idea really pop into your mind from?
Yeah. So I started my brand with YouTube, and it was Win with Zach, bro. That was so cheesy and so lame. And it's not a movement that everybody, Win with Zach. It was about me. It wasn't about that psychographic, that specific, person. And so I learned from those mistakes, and how I came about podcasting. At the time, I'm no longer a ClickFunnels fan, but at the time I was, and I had bought the the Funnel Hacks Masterclass and all that. And in the Funnel Hacks Masterclass, Russell was talking about how one person that he worked with, same story, like nobody was taking him seriously. And then he launched a podcast, and it skyrocketed his brand. I was like, and I'd been putting that off for like over a year. And I was like, all right, man, that story resonated with me. I'm going to go ahead and do it.
So it was the podcast itself that you were listening to that fired up that desire in you to really get that podcast up and running.
Yeah, it was the module in the Funnel Hacks Masterclass where he's talking about that story of the dude starting his podcast. And I was like, okay, man, it's time to do it. Let's give it a shot.
That's amazing. You never know what, like, one piece of content or like one thing that somebody says, how that could just alter you or trigger something in you. I mean, that's amazing. That's amazing. Like there's this piece of content about Bill Gates, right? And it was talking about like what he does or how he is or something about that. And he was saying that from an early age, all he wanted to do was just read, right? He would just sit in his room and just read books all day. And I mean, his mom had trouble getting him to do other things besides read, right? And like, I hear that, and pretty recently, like, it just refired this and rekindled this love of learning and reading. I mean, I've always loved learning and reading, but like, it just refired it up on like a random thing about Bill Gates that it's just, it's just totally by coincidence. So my question to you is, the ethos of Underdog Empowerment, right? Why and really, how are you working to spread that message more? I mean, I know obviously the podcast and what you're doing, but like, like, where do you want to take it and how are you going to bring it that big?
Yeah, man, absolutely. A lot of stuff like what we're doing right now, going on other shows, spreading the word about it is one way. And then I'm also really big into YouTube. So I had a decent sized channel. And then I just recently started working with Nick Nimmin. He's got about 500,000. I literally watched this guy go from 10K subscribers to 500,000 in less than 2 years. So I'm like, okay. And I've been following his content the whole time. I was like, okay, dude, you're the real deal. And started working with him as far as consulting about YouTube. And we just got that rolling. We're putting out like one video a week. And that's, like how we're spreading it. And obviously other social media channels, but the vision for it, what it is that I want to do. So right now I'm like known as like the podcast guy. Like I helped a lot of people start their podcast, and we got 100% success rate of getting them ranked, earning money from their podcasts, growing their podcasts, all that stuff. And that's cool. And that's awesome. You definitely got to, go deep on that one thing and really scale it out. But I don't want to just be the podcast guy. So the vision for it with Underdog Empowerment is to help underdog entrepreneurs, like that alpha male type entrepreneur that has these odds stacked against them, but they're committed to winning, to help them build passive income businesses. A lot of it's through content marketing, but showing them different ways to create passive income streams and how to get that off the ground.
So it's empowering them financially to be able to go out and do the things that they want to do.
Yeah. And you know what? It's funny about that. It's like, I constantly am giving out like content, showing you strategies on how to, like, for instance, how to make money on autopilot with YouTube or whatever, and make videos like that or podcast stuff. But all that, the root of all that is always mindset. Like if you don't have your mindset dialed in, I know it's so cliche and it's the unsexy answer. Nobody wants to hear that. But if you're not there, if you're not mentally fit, if you don't have the mental fortitude, if you don't have the mental toughness dialed in, you're not going to build a big business or awesome business that's helping other people if you don't have those things dialed in first and foremost.
Well, what specifically do you mean by that? Like, is it your relationship with money, your relationship with yourself, with other people? Like, what specifically about mindset do you think are like the most critical things that we have to get or fine tune or adjust or get right? I mean, I know there's probably not one formula for everybody, but I think you kind of get the essence of the question.
Yeah, definitely, dude. Getting your relationship right with money is big, definitely, because like there's so many people like money's bad or it's not about money, but it has to be about money. It don't have to all be about money, obviously, but money, you should have a loving relationship with money. Like money's a good thing, all right? You could do great things with money. But yeah, that's definitely one of them. But more so leaning towards like the mental toughness, like having the mental fortitude of being able to build a business. Cause man, it's not easy. And if you are going to crack under any type of pressure, or if you can't stand the critics and all the crazy ups and downs of building a business, I mean, because let's face it, there's nothing easy about building a business, and especially it's so volatile and it's so always ups and downs throughout anything in life, but especially in the beginning part of entrepreneurship of building a business, man, you're going to get punched in the mouth quite a bit, and you got to be able to take that punch and get right back up and keep pushing forward.
Honestly, I think the only easy thing about business is quitting.
Yeah,
that's like the only easy thing you can do.
Amen, bro.
So when did you really start to realize that mindset was so important? I mean, it would seem like, one of the themes of, at least what one of the themes that I'm hearing in your story is there was really a lack of male mentorship or lack of a role model. And it seems like you are now stepping in to provide that mentorship and be that role model for other people, because you know the pain of not having that, right? But how did you figure it out if you didn't have the role model to tell you?
Yeah, man, that's a tough question. I don't know if I could really pinpoint that exact time. I think it's just been growing and happening, more and more. But I would have to go back to when I missed out on the birth of my twin boys. And so I say this, like, I'm not saying this in an arrogant type of way at all. But dude, after going through the shit that I put myself through in prison and all the crazy shit that happened during that time, like, entrepreneurship's not easy, but man, there's nothing that you could throw at me that's going to make me give up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm at the point, like, dude, let's go, like, dude, there's been so many times where I wanted to bash my head against this wall behind me, trying to figure, entrepreneurship out and trying to figure out how to actually produce revenue in my business. But it's not gotten to the point where it's like, oh, I can't do it anymore, because like I've developed, like those extreme adverse situations that happen in life, I wouldn't take none of them back, because it really built strength of character, man. And it gave me skills that have been able to apply not just in business, but in every area of my life and stuff. So I think a lot of that stuff comes from the tough times. So I know nobody wants to hear it when they're going through like, oh yeah, it's easy for him to say or whatever. But if you're going through those times and it feels like the world's crumbling around you and like there's no light at the end of the tunnel, kind of look at it as you gotta really train your mind to be like, okay, well, what can I learn from this? How is this going to make me better? What can I pull from this and use it in the future so I don't have to keep on going through this? And just to be, I know it sounds cheesy, but to be actually grateful for those moments because you're actually getting better during those times.
That's powerful.
Thanks,
because it really seems like in those moments of our toughest, I mean, our most difficult obstacles or events or circumstances, like that's really when shit hits the fan, like that's when you really show your true character. I mean, and I really think like in those moments, like those decisions that we make, that affects us at such a deep and profound level. Like if you're in that moment and you're like, all right, I'm just going to keep going. Like I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to do it. I'm not going to give up. Like that's what you're then like, that is who you have then become. You've become that person that doesn't give up, the person
Yep.
who is tough. Like, and I'm curious to know your perspective on it, but I think when everybody says, you know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, like it happens because of those really, really small moments and in those very short moments where we make decisions that in the moment are seemingly very small, but when you look back on them, you're like, holy shit, that moment defined my whole life, or that decision helped redefine my whole life in such a profound way.
Yeah, dude. Man, is it okay if I share a story?
Please.
So to everything, I'm sitting here nodding my head the whole time as you're talking because it's so true, bro. So the first time that I was in prison, bro, like this let me, after going through this, I was like, okay, I can do whatever. Like I'm not saying like I'm almighty and that I can't, you know, like I'm going to run into failures, but I know I can get through whatever. So I was in there for 4 years flat, and 2 years into it, I'm 21 years old and I'm in the hole for tattoo violations. Now the hole is the prison inside of the prison. That's where you go when you get in trouble. I had gotten in trouble for getting some tattoos. It's a 8x10 cell. You could literally walk 3 steps one way and 3 steps the next. That's it. It's dark, dirty, cold, depressing. Very little to no human interaction. It sucks, right? And I'm in there for 2 months. And about 2 weeks into it, I get called back to the captain's office, which is never nothing good. It means you're probably in trouble. And so I'm immediately thinking like, okay, somebody told on me for something that I hadn't gotten in trouble for yet, or they're trying to get me to tell on somebody else. Mind you, I'm 19 at the time. I'm still in my rebellious stage, still in that stage of trying to fit in with the quote unquote cool crowd, whatever you want to call that. And so I'm like, I ain't saying nothing. I go back there. He's sitting behind his desk, got his white shirt on, arms crossed, gold badge, white shirt, black hat, me mug on his face, all this stuff, right? And he's like, Mr. Babcock, have a seat. And I'm like, for what, dude? I don't have nothing to say. You got me down here for 2 months, man. You can put me back in my cell. And he's like, you know, when you come back, he's like, how long you been locked up? I said, about 2 years. He said, well, you know, when you come back here, it's nothing good, right? I'm like, dude, I don't give a fuck. Put me back in my cell. I don't have nothing to say. He's like, yeah, we got a call over the weekend, and your mom let us know that she had to break into your bathroom door with a screwdriver to find your sister dead on the floor with a needle in her arm. And dude, that was the last thing, you know, the very last thing that I was expecting in that moment. Just vision blacked out to nothing, came back. This adrenaline rush burst through me, started crying. And then they gave me a 30-second phone call to my mom, like legit 30 seconds. We're bawling our eyes out to each other, telling each other how much we love each other. And then the phone hangs up. And then I asked to be put in a cell by myself. I didn't want to be in there with my cellmate. I just wanted some time alone. And they honored that. That was pretty cool. And so for the next 3 days, bro, I'm in this dark, dirty, depressing cell by myself. All I could think about was all the mean things I ever said or did to my sister, the goodbye I never get to tell her, just literally going insane, right? I'm trapped in there by myself. I didn't eat for 3 days. The only time I got out of my bed was to use the restroom. That's it. And on that third day though, man, I woke up and I literally was like, I don't know what the reason why I'm still here, but there's a reason or else I wouldn't be here. What can I do right now to find happiness and peace? And the funny thing, well, the strange thing is At that time in my life, I didn't even know what self-help books were or anything about personal development. I ended up reading a book, and fast forward 7 years, read a book in 2017 called Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. In that book, though, he talks about the quality of questions that you ask yourself determine the quality of your life. Like, anytime we hear a question, our brain immediately searches for the answer. If I say, Ben, what color are your shoes? You, me, and all of the people that are listening right now, they're wondering what color are your shoes? You know what I'm saying? This is how our brain works. And so in those crazy situations, those adverse situations, when it feels like the world's crumbling around you, and I've been guilty of this, we tend to ask the wrong questions. We'll be like, well, why is this always going to happen to me? Or why me? And that's the wrong question, because then it directs your focus to the wrong things. And when I was in that situation, by asking, what can I do to find happiness and peace right now, it directed my mind to the right things. And I was down there for 2 months by myself, and I developed this crazy routine. I'm not even going to get into it, but if you think OCD was crazy, don't have shit on what I'm talking about. And but doing this, though, doing this crazy routine, of working out at the same time every day, writing at the same time every day, cleaning my cells, deep cleaning my cell every single day, it gave me a peace of mind in a really, really dark time, and it built a lot of strength of character. And the moral of the story is, man, I'll sum it up really quickly, that no matter what, you always have control of the situations. You might not be able, like, I wasn't getting out of that cell. I put myself in there, and I wasn't going to kick that door down. A tornado could come through and wreck your house and kill your family. God forbid that happens. You can't control that. That's a natural disaster, act of God, whatever you want to call it. However, you can either decide to be bitter and kill yourself, or go out and kill other people, or just be miserable for the rest of your life. Or you can choose to internalize that and go out and help other people and do great things because of that pain you've experienced. Regardless of what you decide to do, you have the power to choose how you're going to respond to that, no matter what. So at the end of the day, you always have the powers in your court. And that was one of the big lessons that I took away from that.
That is insane. That is so when you at the third day, when you had this revelation, or maybe an epiphany, or whatever the appropriate word is, it seems like in that instant, that was your decision, that in a fell swoop, I mean, changed you forever.
Dude, like you were just talking about, man, you had those decisions that you make, and like it's like you can either give up, but if you choose not to give up, it's who you become. And that's like that was that moment for me.
In that moment, did it seem like a humongous decision that you had made, or did it just seem like it was another day and you just decided on a different path? Like, now hearing the story, however many years later, to everybody listening, it's like, that is a huge turning point in your life. But like in the moment, like, how big did it seem to you at that point?
I was so beat down spiritually at that moment, just losing my sister and thinking about my mom's grieving the loss of her daughter, and her only son's in prison. I'm not going to be there for it. And I was just, I was so low. It's like a rock bottom moment. And it was the choice was either give in and just sit there and continue to cry and not be able to do anything about it, or rise up and figure out what can you do to find happiness and peace in that moment. And I just chose the latter. So it was like, I don't know. It was like, it didn't seem like such a huge decision. It was like one or the other. And I said, I'm going to choose this. And then I just started developing that routine every day for 2 months down there, started doing the same things and looking for, and it was crazy, because by the end of it, dude, I was grateful to be in prison. It was weird. It was like, I was like, dude, I got 3 meals coming in the hole each day. I'm breathing, even though I'm in this cell, like I'm alive. Like, and I was just grateful for the little things, man. And it kind of, I know it sounds cliche and cheesy, but it kind of gave me a sense of power,
What was that routine?
Bro. All right. So I won't go into all the details because we'd be here for forever. But one of them was, so we got 2 showers a week down there, and so every 3 days. and we had 2 bathing towels. And so I took one of my bathing towels and I ripped it up into a bunch of mini rags. And I took one rag and I'd scrub my walls with it. Another one would scrub my sink, another one for the toilet. Then I'd get down on my knees and sweep the floor with my bare hands, gather up all the dust bunnies, wad up some toilet paper, get it damp, grab the dust bunnies, flush it down the toilet. And then I grab my final rag, get it nice and soapy, scrub the floor. And that was one thing, like by owning my space at, it's like kind of like that book with Jocko Willink about making your bed and stuff. Just doing that act of you doing something, of putting something into motion and you having the power over that, kind of, it's like a momentum thing. And in just having a clean area, that made me feel good. Then every single day I'd work out right after I get done cleaning, right before dinner would come by. The nurse would come around each and every day at the same time. I would write letters the same day, all this stuff. Like I would keep my toothpaste in the same spot on my sink, like little things like that. It was just like so structured. And I had a thing that I was always constantly doing that kind of, I know it sounds weird, but it gave me a sense of power. And it was like, hey, I can control how I respond to this situation. The situation isn't going to control how I'm going to act moving forward.
What did you write when you were there?
This is funny. I used to be a gangster rapper, man. Not even lying. No, but I wasn't so gangster. But I used to do music. I would write that. I also write letters every single day. And then I also did a lot of reading while I was down there. Didn't know anything about personal development. We had the choice of old Western cowboy books or the Bible. And at the time, I didn't like neither one, but I chose the Bible because old Western books would just put me to sleep. And so I'm not a big religious Bible thumping guy, but I do believe in God and stuff like that. And reading those scriptures at the time really gave me inspiration and brought me peace in a really dark time.
Wow. So did you just read the Bible over and over and over again, or did they give you access to like multiple books?
Yeah, we would do, we would even, it's called Cadillacs, where you would, for instance, a bar of soap, you put a hole in it and then you get string out of the waistband of your jumpsuit and tied together, and you could slide it underneath the door to other cells. And then you can exchange whatever it is that you're exchanging, whether it's book or tobacco or whatever. But yeah, we would pass books that way. You can also get books whenever, twice a week when you did shower exchange and stuff like that. So I really just read the Bible. I tried to get into the old Western books, but I literally just couldn't grab my attention. So I just read the Bible a lot, and I didn't do a lot of reading in there. I read the Bible probably like 2 or 3 times while I was down there. But yeah, it was just a combination of all those things put together.
So today in your like, in your day-to-day life, do you still have that structure and that sort of, obviously not the same, but like
Right.
something that has been adapted to your circumstances today? Do you still have that kind of structure and that organization in your day-to-day?
Yeah, and it's funny because like I'm a creative thinker or a creative brain. I'm not the analytical systems kind of guy, but I am very, very specific or structure orientated as far as like, dude, I got my calendar and also the Google Calendar, like that dictates my life, like it's all, and I'm not even, I used to do the whole check off stuff on your list or whatever to kind of feel a sense of accomplishment. I got away from that. I just do things that matter, but if it's got to be on the schedule and we're constantly focused on the one thing that we're doing at that moment. And it's played it made a huge impact for me.
Now that you obviously have the freedom of choice at a much greater capacity now, what do you tend to read today?
Dude, I love psychology books, marketing, because marketing is psychology. I'm just a psychology geek, bro. I love, dude, Robert Greene, probably the coolest interview ever. I always tell everybody, if I could be personally mentored by anybody in the world, it would be that guy. I don't only just read his books, I read them, listening to them on Audible, and take notes. And then out of what I learn, I turn it into my own words with like Facebook posts and write stuff about it. Teaching what I'm learning in my own way to try and internalize it more. But yeah, I love psychology.
That's awesome. So
Thanks.
today, it seems like you've done a lot of work on yourself and a lot of reading and writing. What questions do you still have about yourself?
That's a good question, bro. It really is. Um, Man, I gotta think about that, because that's a really good question. Because I really believe that anytime you think that you think you have all the answers, or that you can't learn anymore and that you can't grow, that's the day you become a damn fool. And so I I I I harness the confidence that I have to keep moving forward and keep doing things, but I always like, dude, I in every interaction I have, and I'm not a saint, I'm not perfect at this, but I always try to learn from everybody and everything. Even if I feel like that person is just throwing their life away, I try to learn something from everybody. So I don't know, man, about myself, dude. Sometimes I wonder if I'm like, I always ask myself, is this exactly what I want to be doing in my life? And it always leads to yes, but I always have to question it just to make sure. But like, dude, I have like my more like purpose driven goals and stuff related with the business too, so it's all aligned. So I think that's cool, but that's a tough question, bro. It really is.
Well, I think that's one of my favorite questions to ask people, um, because I know I have like a zillion questions about myself,
Yeah,
and I think you could ask yourself every day, maybe even every 6 hours, you could ask yourself, who am I? And you get it. If you honestly answered like stream of consciousness, just let it flow, you get a different answer every
true.
single time.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. I think the best way to answer that would be, am I really able to view things from other people's perspective? Because I tried it, like, dude, I have strong beliefs that I believe in, that I'm like, that are convictions, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I always try to question those, because like, well, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong about this, or what if they're right, or what if it's actually better, so I think that's powerful to be able to do that. It's not always easy either, but I think it's really powerful to be able to see things in different ways and how other people see them.
Dude, it is so tough to do that
Yeah.
because a lot of the times what we do, and I'm sure you probably know way more about this than I do, being a fan of psychology and studying it like you do. But whenever we have this idea, especially if it's to the point of like being a very strongly held conviction, a lot of times we attach our identity to it. So
Hmm.
then we think that we are this idea, and it's like, well, you could be wrong. And
And
if
if
you
somebody
are,
starts poking holes at it, you're like,
yeah, you get defensive because it's like they're poking holes in you, but they're actually not. It's just this one like belief
yeah,
that, but the belief's not you.
yeah.
You know what I
It,
mean?
exactly, dude. And then to take it even a step further, you start, it's what, confirmation bias, where you'll unfilter any information that supports the opposition. You'll just filter it out, and anything that does, you're like, yeah, see there, or whatever. And then anybody points anything that could, potentially debunk your belief, you're like, nah, or whatever. And it's like, it's crazy. So it's like, it's hard to look at things with an objective view.
Oh, definitely. And I think even to the point of like being skeptical of other views that, and it's, I mean, I'm almost restating what you're saying, but like just being skeptical of other people's views that are not our own, and like, oh, well, they don't believe the same thing that I do, on this one thing. Maybe they're just not credible at all. And it's like, wait a second. That's such a toxic belief. Like, because you may be wrong. and
Yep.
then it's like, okay, well, now the whole thing is your whole perspective of this other person and their belief that's just thrown off kilter because of this one thing that you're just kind of stuck, like you're stuck in. Right. Yeah.
Dude, you're so right, dude. So like, my belief for so long was like, I got to be a tough love kind of, because like that's how I learned, and that's what actually made me a better person, was tough love. And it built strength of character. So like, I used to always be, I'd like, if you were fat, I'd be like, no, you're engaging in fat behavior, you're making poor decisions, you need to get your shit together, quit eating all the time, start exercising. But then And that was like my belief for so long. But then I learned, you know, that necessarily that's not always the right way to be with everybody. Cause there's some people that don't have self-confidence, their self-esteem is so low, and you say something like that and they go and kill themselves. And then the goal that I would never want to say something that makes somebody want to kill themselves. Even though I'm being mean, sometimes I'm trying to do it to shake their pattern, to get them like, oh, okay, I need to do better. But if I say something that's going to make somebody kill somebody, then I'm going to feel like shit, you know, because then I did the complete opposite of what I was actually trying to do. I'm not helping them. I'm actually making it worse. So that was one of a big eye opener for me. It's like, you know, different. Everybody's different. You know what I mean? So you can't always be harsh with everybody. You know, I'm not saying you can't enable them either. You can't let them make excuses, but you can't, you know, be jumping at them. You know what I'm saying? Some people are a little bit more delicate.
Oh, definitely. And everybody's different. Like, I know that I crave objective feedback. Like, I want to know, like, how am I doing? What do you actually think about what I'm doing? And not from the perspective of like, oh, I need to be validated by other people, but like, I want to know how to improve. So, you know, if everybody's just saying, oh, you're doing a great job, that's awesome, this is great, you know, that's not, you know, makes you feel good in the short term, but it doesn't help you improve. It doesn't help you get better. So it's like that objective, like, okay, this, you know, this seems to be working here, but this other thing, maybe you could do this better, or this needs to be improved. Like, that is super helpful. And I like it. Just tell it to me straight. Give it to me straight. I'll handle it. I'm tough. You know, I can deal with it. But very few people are actually like that. And
I know.
And it's kind of frustrating, because it's like, well, I'm like that. So why aren't other people like that? And I'm like, wait a second, because the whole world doesn't revolve around me.
Right.
So, it's like everybody's different. So when you're running your show, right, knowing that everybody's different, do you try to, and I feel like there's this balance, right, of like, you have to stay true to who you are, you know, as the host of your show. Like, that is your show. So it's got to be like, I mean, it could be whatever you want, but in my opinion, it has to be like, we got to be true to who we are as podcasters, as broadcasters, as hosts of our own show, as creators. But at the same time, if nobody's hearing what we're saying, we can't really help them. So I feel like there's this balance between, okay, well, we have to stay true to who we are as creators and as people, but then at the same time, like, you know, we're creating it and we want other people to listen to it and to benefit from it. So like, how do you balance that? Uh, maybe there is no balance. Maybe their forces are not competing, but the way I framed it, it seems like they're kind of competing. So how do you approach that?
I love that question. That is a fun, dude. I'm so glad you asked that. So I love this type of stuff. So here's the deal. You're exactly right. As if you're building a brand, like, all right, so let's talk about Walmart, McDonald's, Apple, Coca-Cola, whatever, you know, the biggest brands in the world. They can create this imaginary avatar and then be the ideal to it, because they're a company and they can morph and be whatever they need to be to that avatar. But when we're talking about personal branding, which podcast is personal branding, you're the face, the voice of the podcast. You can't create this imaginary avatar and then be the ideal to that avatar if it doesn't align with who you really are. There's an incongruence there. And so you're right. You got to be you. You got to state your opinions, beliefs, and just be you. And so, like, my best advice for anybody building a personal brand is to not create this, oh, he's a 35-year-old male married with two people. None of those demographics even matter anyways. Get into the psychographics. How does this person think, feel, whatnot? And so you're really essentially just helping who you were yesterday, or who's just a couple steps behind you. And so the only time you really got to get out of your own mind is like, well, how was I feeling when I was going through that phase? Because you might be helping people that are just, we're just going to use a hypothetical situation. You might be helping some people that are just getting started, building their business. And obviously you're way ahead of that now. You got your business, your 6 figures a year, whatever. And so you're way past that stage, but you have to take yourself out of where you're at right now. I'm like, all right, how's this person feeling right now? What are some of their pains that they're going through? Are they feeling like they're like it's never going to work? And that's when you take yourself out objectively and then speak to them in that language so that they can see that, okay, he understands me. He understands what I'm going through. And that's how you win that game. But yeah, I still be myself though. And I think by doing that, you attract the same people that are aligned with, who you are or whatnot.
I think that was a great answer to it.
Thank
I
you.
want to take it a step further. When you are being yourself, how much do you choose to show? Like, if you had to put a percentage on it, like a percentage of who you really are, like how much do you show that, and how much do you keep tucked away in reserve that for whatever reason you don't put public facing?
I honestly believe the reason why I'm winning with my brand now is because I share it all. I even share the dark thoughts, emotions, and desires that we all have that a lot of people try to keep suppressed because they want to meet society standards or whatnot. But we all, dude, there's days where you just run into somebody and they're talking, you want to punch them dead in their throat. You know what I'm saying? There's times where like we had that. Let's just be real. We're human beings. It's impossible not to have, these feelings and emotions and desires. And so I feel like by just being me and open and not even caring about it, like that's what makes people fall in love with my brand and me, is because, and I'm not perfect, dude. I clearly have a ton of character flaws, whatever you want to call them. But being open about it, and I hate the word vulnerable because everybody's like, you got to be vulnerable, and then they take that and they try and fake this. They're like virtue signaling that, oh, so yeah, whatever. Like they this is going to get deep, but all right, since they're opening that can of worms, people don't say the things that they need to say because they're afraid of like hurting that person's feelings, or how, they know that what they're about to say can potentially improve the quality of life of this other human being or their audience, but they don't say it because they're afraid of how they'll be perceived by everybody else. It might go against society's political correctness or whatever, you know what I'm saying? It might be contrary to all that. And so they suppress that and they don't say these things because they don't want, one of our biggest fears is to be outcasted from the tribe. We're social creatures. And so that's a huge fear that plays on. That's the reason why we do that. But if we're being real, we're all secretly failing to meet society's standards because there's no such thing as the ideal human. Now, it's good that we have these standards because a society that would allow murder, rape, and all these horrible things would not be a great society to live in. So it's good that we have it, but none of us are meeting these things. But it happens on a micro level every single day. People cut people off in traffic to get to where they need to go. They vie for positioning in checkout lanes. So you're always stepping on somebody else to get where you need to go. It happens on a macro level where countries wage war against other countries to get what they want. So it happens. It's part of human nature. And I feel like when you can be open about it, and I got it's from studying people like Carl Jung, great, real deep in the psychology, learned from Sigmund Freud or whatnot. But he talks about, he was the one that coined this, like the shadow self. Like we all have those, those dark thoughts, desires, and emotions. But if you can bring those to the surface instead of suppressing them, like most people try to do, then you can actually have a better shot at having those things from actually actualizing themselves. And you can incorporate these dark thoughts into your persona. Like, for example, I don't know if you ever played a lot of sports, but when I used to play sports and in business too, when I get on that football field, I go on my dark side, bro. I'm trying to knock your head off. We're trying to win. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and we did that. We came together for a common goal to win a championship. And you do that in business too. Like, dude, I'm trying to dominate. Like, dude, I'm trying to take my show to number one, like, or whatever, and so you can use this dark side for good things. And it's all about incorporating that into the personality instead of trying to suppress it and act like it isn't there. Because if you notice, the ones that try to suppress it the most are the ones that are the most deceptive, the ones that you just can't trust. If you're positive all the time, I can't trust you. I know we went down a rabbit hole there, but it was a pretty good question though. Yes.
Dude, rabbit holes are super encouraged on the show. It's like that's definitely like I love that. So my question then is, like, And I know I'm kind of asking the same thing, but I think the slight angle is important. Like, how much of the dark side do you really show? Like, every single person, I don't care who you are, like, there's one thing that I would imagine most people would never say. They would never tell another soul that happened in their lives. And, you know, everybody's listening and thinking that one thing immediately popped into your head. And you're like, yeah, I'm never going to fucking say that. I'm never going to share that with anybody ever. You know, there's like
Right.
that deep, deep, dark secret that we harbor in ourselves, right? Do you bring that out? Do you shout it from the rooftops? Like, I mean, because that takes a lot of balls, but is that really like, does it go with the ethos of what we're talking about, of like bringing out the dark side or the shadow side and like just laying it out there of, this is who I am, this is what I've done, it's the truth of it. Like, how much of that dark side do we bring out?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so that's where it gets tricky too. And so you're talking about like things, that we've done in our past, like I'll never speak on that, and I think everybody has that, you know what I mean? Um, I used to be so like when I started off in network marketing, and when I started off in network marketing, I didn't tell anybody that I went to prison or that I used to, be a drug addict or whatnot. Because my whole thought was, right before I went back to prison the last time, I got fired from being a convicted felon. And so if I share that I'm a convicted felon and I did all this time and used to be a heroin junkie and all this and that nobody would take me seriously as an entrepreneur. And so I didn't share that. And one of my mentors got me to open up while I was in network marketing. It's like, dude, you gotta share that. That can like, that for one, it's really interesting. People want to hear about that story. And for two, it could really impact people's, hearing that story. You don't understand how powerful your story is. And so like now, dude, I get so tired of talking about my prison story, but I do it because I know it's such a huge, for one, for those two reasons, like I just mentioned, it draws the attention, but also it impacts people in a significant way. And so, I've shared some pretty dark, like, plunging needles in my arm, overdosing on heroin. Can't really get worse than that. But I get it though. So I understand, for those people that are like, well, I don't want to share that I pissed my pants in third grade or whatever it is that you're scared about sharing. But man, there really is power in unlocking that. And then the other side of that question is like, as far as how much of your dark side, like, dude, there's a time to be dark. There's a time to get angry, like to use that anger that you're feeling and to channel it into something good. You know what I'm saying? Like for me, Underdog Empowerment was built off the dark, not all, but built off that dark side. Like, oh, they're counting me out. They're saying that I can't make it. Man, fuck them. I'm gonna go out and do it anyways. Like that was me channeling that dark side into something good. And so, you just got to figure out how to use that dark. Look at anybody that's accomplished anything significant. They all have a dark side. Especially any professional sports athlete like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan. Like, dude, they went into Tim Grover talks about it a lot in his book Relentless, but and any epic achiever in business, man, they use it for a source of good. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Do you ever think that it could get, like, obviously you can take your dark side too far, obviously, right? But in sharing that past, your history, do you ever think there's a point where it's like, you can't share that, don't share that, don't do that?
And unfortunately for certain people, yeah, because they pigeonhole themselves into a specific career or something where that's frowned upon, and they don't have the freedom to be real. And that's really unfortunate, for those people. But if you're like, and some people have business models or whatnot to where they can't share some certain things like that, because then it would like ruin the reputation of their company and whatnot. So unfortunately, yeah, and that sucks to be in that position, I guess. I don't know how that feels because I'm not in that position myself. So I can't, but I'm looking at it from an objective view here, and I'm trying to see like that would kill me to be honest, that would kill me if I couldn't be myself and speak my mind. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that's one of the best things about being a human being is being able to state how you really feel and your thoughts and views and perspectives and opinions on things. I think that's what makes us such a So I think that's what makes the dynamic so awesome.
I agree. So excluding that group of people who, for whatever work reasons, or, maybe like, I don't think a Jeff Bezos could go and air all of his dirty laundry, and I don't think that would help him. But like, well, I guess for you in specifically, like, is there anything about your past that you haven't shared? I'm not asking for you to share. I'm just asking if there is.
There's definitely stuff like that happens all the time on podcasts where like somebody would ask a good question and they're like, holy crap, I forgot that even happened. You know what I mean? But all like the significant, like really dark moments that definitely stuck with me, like I've pretty much aired all those out, and it's actually helped me more than it's hurt me at all. Definitely. Like there's definitely some people that are put off by it, but those aren't the people that are going to resonate with me anyways. And so by bringing this stuff out, I know it's like, oh my God. Like, for instance, dude, when the podcast blew up right away. Right. But still at that time, I hadn't put my finger on the specific problem that I could solve for a specific type of person. And I was still broke in my business, even though my brand was starting to blow up and I was starting to get attention. And so I teamed up because I got a guy that reached out to me, and he had this program that had over 1,000 successful graduates and did over 20 million in revenues. And so it was like legit, and it was for lead gen, customer acquisition, and scaling a business. However, I'm broke as fuck at the time, right? But we repurposed this program and we're putting it out there with me being like the face of it, with my brand and stuff blowing up. And we're bringing in people to this program. We're actually bringing in students. However, I felt like an imposter. I felt like a maggot. I felt like a parasite because I'm sitting here teaching people. I'm sitting here trying to achieve what we're teaching people by teaching it. And it was just ass backwards of a huge circle jerk or whatnot. And so eventually it just didn't align. And I made a post about it on Christmas Day of 2018. And I called myself out. I'm like, hey, this is what we were doing. It's legit. It helped a lot of people, but hey guys, I'm broke. I haven't achieved none of these results myself, and I just don't feel right. So I'm pulling the plug on it and I'm going back to the drawing board. Dude, that was so frightening to share that. Like I didn't want to put myself out there like, hey, I feel like one of these guys that's taking a picture in front of rented Lamborghinis promising to be a millionaire overnight. Like I didn't want to do that. And it was like, I was like, man, but I got to do it. And I did that. And it was so tough to do it, but it turned out to be one of the best things that I did because, dude, I had so many people reaching out to me after I made that post. Like, dude, that's a breath of fresh air. I really appreciate you being real about that. I got respect for you now because for you doing that. And it was tough at the time, but dude, it turned out to be a really good move. So if you're feeling like there's something that you just can't like that kind of thing, oh, I don't want to put that out there, man, it might actually turn out to be the thing that's going to help you really connect with the right people.
That's awesome.
Right on, brother.
Right on. So when you think about legacy, you think about, I was reading this book. It's actually right over there by Claude Hopkins. One of the godfathers of advertising, just epic guy. What do you think? I don't know why I brought that up. I think it jogs in my memory. But like when you're gone, like what do you want people to remember you for? If like one or two sentences, like your thing.
I have it's a long story, but and I'm gonna, like you said, one or two sentences. So after going through the judicial, I can never pronounce that. I got like a speech impediment. Judicial. Is that how you say it?
I believe so.
Okay. Judicial system. After going through it myself, I'm not making excuses because I put myself there, and everybody else that goes through there puts themselves in that position. However, the system is totally broken. The recidivism rate is ridiculous, and the resources that are offered are bullshit. They don't help you, and it just makes you jump through a bunch of hoops, and it's designed to keep you dependent on the system. They put you on welfare, food stamps, all this other shit. And so my life purpose, this could change in the future, but we currently offer jobs to people coming out of prison. Not everybody, but the ones that are serious about turning their life around. we put them to work in our agency, and we give them positions of working in this. We also have them, you got to read these books that are going to help develop your character, and you go through certain programs or whatnot. And for the guys that are cut out to be entrepreneur, they won't work for us for long. They'll go out and do their own thing. For the guys that are not, because not everybody is, they can continue to work for us, get pay raises, all that stuff. So the goal, what I want to be remembered as, is creating this program that creates a 9% or lower recidivism rate nationwide. It's a crazy big, like you're out of your mind goal. But like Steve Jobs says, the ones that think they're crazy enough to change the world are the ones who do. And that's our goal. Damn it. We're sticking to it.
That's amazing.
Right on, brother.
So, Zach, I want to thank you very, very much for coming on the show today. And I appreciate the discussion, and I want to be very respectful of your time. So I have one more question for you, then we'll wrap it on up. But what question should I be asking you that I just wouldn't think to ask?
I always like to ask people at the end of an interview is, if you could go back to the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey and give yourself just one piece of advice, but not advices and things you regret, what would that advice be? I like that question, but man, maybe that's it. Because that's always what I'm curious to hear from other people.
And what's your answer?
Mine is definitely, without a doubt, do the work. All right. When you go into any industry or you get involved in anything, your first goal is not to get attention or to prove yourself. You just can't skip certain steps. You need to actually do the work. So your first goal would be to, in any industry and anything that you're getting into, is to observe the landscape. What are the unspoken rules? What are the social dynamics? What are the skills you need to develop? Okay. And then we move into the second phase of actually developing these skills, becoming a practitioner of your own ideas, and start to helping other people. And this is usually lasts the longest phase, about 10,000 hours or more. That's what a real expert is, when you've internalized these skills. And then finally, then you move into what they call mastery. And that's where you've developed these skills so much that you don't even have to think about them to perform them. You've eternalized them to where you can perform them subconsciously, just like you could walk and chew bubble gum after practicing it so much. That's what it really takes to be successful, I believe, in any endeavor, and to really streamline that whole process, because you can't shortcut it. There's no shortcuts, but to streamline it is to find somebody that already has what you want, become their student, whether you have to pay them money, barter services, connect them with someone that's a power play in your network, work for them, whatever it is that you got to do to exchange some type of value so that you can get around them and learn from them. That's the fastest way to streamline that entire process.
And what skill are you developing?
I think the best skill in the world is having the deepest understanding of human nature that you possibly can. Because that will, anything involving two or more human beings is psychology. And so the more you can understand that, and understand not just your own psychology, but other people's psychology too, that's just going to carry you the farthest in life. Because if you think about it, relationships is the third most valuable asset in life, next to time and health. Other than that, relationships, man. So I think focusing on that is like the best skill to develop.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again very, very much, Zach. I'm very appreciative of your time, and you rock. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me, bro. It's been a blast.
Yeah, me too. It has been for me too. So thank you again. And to everybody who's watching and listening, I want to thank y'all very, very much. Y'all rock too. And I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. So thank you very much. Thank you again, Zach. And I will see all of you on the next episode. Take care.